Okay, good afternoon, Sycamore. Today is Tuesday the 23rd of February, and this is, again, just like yesterday afternoon, a combination of a DT lesson and a science lesson. Within this lesson, our what is to know where food comes from and to understand seasonality. So those might be words that we're not sure of, but at the end of this lesson, we will know what seasonality means. So first of all, I want you to think about what you know already. So you might already know what seasonality means. You might also know why it's important that we try to eat seasonal food. So if you do have an idea, I'd like you to pause the video now and tell your grown-up or somebody at home what you think about these questions. So the questions are, what do you already know about seasonality? Why is it important that we try to eat seasonal food? If you don't know the answers to these questions, you don't need to worry, but I'd like you to have a guess. What do you think these words might mean? So pause the video now. Okay, super. So let's find out. Climate conditions affect when food is produced in the UK. So UK stands for United Kingdom, and climate conditions means the weather. Seasonality is the time of year when a food type is at its best in terms of flavour or harvest. Eating seasonably is more sustainable. Growing fruit and vegetables in season means lower levels of heating, lighting, pesticides and fertilisers than at other times of the year. So if you try to grow a fruit or a vegetable in a time that it's not normally grown in, you will have to use things like special heaters, special lights, special chemicals to help it grow. Seasonal produce is better for the environment. The reason for that is because you don't have to do all of those things that we've just talked about, the heating, lighting, pesticides and fertilisers. So yesterday you found out about the different food groups, carbohydrates. Can you remember what the rest are? Can you tell me now? Brilliant, well done. Now we're going to think about the other types of food. So here we've got reared food. So Wales is well suited to beef and sheep farming. The meat tastes nice because the rich soil produces good grass. Tough mountain breeds can survive up in the Welsh mountains through heavy rainfall and cold conditions. And then on the other side we've got Scotland, Highland cattle. Highland cattle have lots of hair to keep them warm. The soil in the Scottish Highlands is not very fertile, so the cattle are good at foraging for food on mountainous slopes because there's flowers, grass and leaves, which contributes to the meat's flavour. Grazing on this type of greenery means they grow slowly and are very lean, which means they've got little fat on them. Now these animals, when they are a source of food, we call them reared food because they are reared, they are bred to be food. Another example is Dexter beef, which is grown there. They come from Northern Ireland. This breed of cattle can survive tough conditions, making the meat lean. They eat a range of grasses which contain good fats alongside wild herbs, which naturally flavours their meat. So a bit like humans, these animals eat certain types of foods to help keep them healthy. Another type of food is caught food. So the foods we've just looked at are reared, they're bred by humans, okay? Caught food, these are things like in Cornwall you catch the Cornish lobster and people eat those. We've got the Cromer crab in Norfolk. Different types of food that are caught, okay? There is also another type of food which is processed food. So processed foods have been altered from their natural state, either for safety reasons or because it makes them easier to store or eat. Grain is milled to produce flour, oil is pressed from olives, butter, and cheese is made from milk. The most common processing methods are canning, freezing, refrigeration, dehydration, and aseptic processing. So can you think of a food that's kept in your fridge? Okay, that is likely to be a processed food. So milk is a processed food, or cheese is a processed food because it's made from milk. Okay. We usually think of processed foods as being bad. In truth, many of them are. However, some types of processed foods are good for you. It isn't the method of processing that makes some processed foods bad for you, it's the ingredients used in those products. So processed foods made with healthy ingredients are fine for your diet. Just avoid those that are high in calories, sugar, fat and sodium, or have little nutritional goodness. So like we said yesterday, you don't drink lots of fizzy drink, you don't eat lots of crisps, and you don't eat lots of cookies, because these are processed foods that, if you eat lots of them, are not going to be very good for you. But we saw yesterday, didn't we, that you can eat small amounts of oil and fats, but also it's good to have cheese, because that's dairy in your diet, and also you've got plain flour, so that's a source of carbohydrate, so they are good for your diet, aren't they? So some processed foods are healthy, some, if you eat lots of them, is not going to be very healthy for you. So let's look at good processed foods. So breakfast cereals are processed foods that can be good for you when they're made with 100% whole grain and wheat. Unfortunately, many breakfast cereals are made with too much sugar and they're low in fibre. So if you want to work out, actually, this is a good point, if you want to work out whether something is good for you or not, you can see on the label the nutritional value, and that will help you decide whether it's got too much sugar in it, too much fat in it. Those things are really helpful if you look at the label. Milk is a processed food because it's pasteurised to kill bacteria, and this is a special word, homogenised, to keep fats from separating. Low and non-fat milk are good for most people who can digest lactose, which is the milk sugar. So some people that are lactose intolerant, so dairy intolerant, can't drink milk. And that would be the same for things like cheese as well. So that's where they use their dairy alternatives, like we talked about yesterday, like oat milk and soya milk, that sort of thing. Okay, and another processed food. Frozen foods are processed foods too. Some healthy frozen foods are plain frozen fish, vegetables and fruits that don't contain any sugar or syrup. Freezing preserves most vitamins and minerals and make the food convenient to store, cook and eat all year round. Okay. Now, what I would like you to do is pause the video and give me one type of each type of food. So, give me an example of a food that is caught, a food that is reared, and a food that is processed. Okay, so pause the video now and give me an example of each. Okay, so now we're going to think more about seasonality. So you will see on the screen there is a different colour for each season. So December, January, February, they are our winter season. We've got March, April, May, that is the spring season. June, July, August, summer season. September, October, November, that's our autumn season. Okay, and in these times of years, there are certain types of fruits and vegetables that are best grown in these times. So, thinking back again about what seasonal food means. Fruit and vegetables naturally ripen during a certain season each year. When they are ripe, they are at their best nutritionally and taste-wise. Cherries, for example, are ripe and juicy in July in the south of England, so cherries are in season in July. British asparagus start showing in fields in the spring. Tomatoes and gooseberries ripen in late summer. Beetroot and pumpkins in the autumn. And sprouts and root vegetables are best in the winter months. If you eat seasonally, you are eating fruit and vegetables during the time of year that they are naturally at their best. And if we think back to what we were thinking about before, it's actually better for the environment, isn't it? Because you don't have to use things like heaters, lights, things like that that also cost a lot of money and are not so good for the environment. Now, sometimes we, as a country, import food, so that means we get them in from other places so that we can have these foods all year round, which is not brilliant for the environment. That's why it's important that we try to eat the fruits and vegetables that are grown close to us. So, for example, mangoes and bananas, they are grown in India, and that's actually our topic, isn't it? So, when you think about the research you're going to do on Friday, you might be able to include mangoes and bananas in the bit about food. So, in Brazil, oranges are best suited to be grown there. China, rice and watermelons. Greece, feta cheese. Indonesia, coconuts. Okay, now your challenge there are some fruits and vegetables that I've included in your pack, and what I would like you to do is sort them according to what season you think that they grow best in, okay? So what season would they grow in where they don't need the lights, they don't need the heaters? What would be the best time of year for them to grow? So you've got on your page, you'll have summer, winter, spring and autumn. You cut out the picture and put them in the correct season. If you're unsure, you could always research it to help you, but I want you to think about it carefully before you do any kind of research. I want you to think about it and apply what you've just learned and what you already know. Okay, off you go.